As mentioned, my name is Alex Schmidt. I'm a solution consultant with SAP SuccessFactors. Been part of the organization for over 10 years and have worked with this concept of total workforce management going back several years. So to start with, just a couple of brief PowerPoint slides. In the resource available, you'll see a much larger version of the content I'm going through. I just wanted to get a slimmed down list so you could have some kind of basis for the presentation and what we're talking about when we reference total workforce management. So really the concept here is to have a holistic view of workforce management, and what that really means is that it's really just more than your employees. There's a lot of other entities that can be working for your organization regardless of whether they're called contingent employees or temporary employees. There are quite a few other resources available. So with that, I'll throw up a basic question. What is the average of talent in an organization that is considered outside talent? And again, when we talk about outside talent, that can be anything from contingents, temporary, also other services, whether it's cleaning services, maintenance services, or security services. I happen to be in the Houston area, and a lot of the oil and gas organizations here will outsource their maintenance services of all the equipment that they may be using in the field. So those technically aren't employees of the organization, but yet they still work for the organization. So organizations want to have a holistic view of that because they want to know who's working for you, what are they doing, where are they, what do they have access to, and that last one is a pretty important question. We have one example where a client onboarded in this case it was contingent/temporary workers for a IT project. They finished that project. However, they didn't have a formal process in place to remove the access of those individuals from the system, and about 30 days later when the project was complete, one of those individuals still logged onto the system and was able to basically take the completed project and leverage it elsewhere. So that was really quite detrimental to that organization. So when we take a look really at the number one issue that organizations are facing, it's getting talent. And the fastest growth revenue organizations, as this highlights, number one issue is getting that highly skilled talent. And in today's environment, when you're talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, getting those workers can be rather difficult to do for your own organization. So a lot of organizations are looking to outsource this, yet still have that holistic view of who's working for them. So the quick poll results of the outside talent, and actually this number is 44%, so it's pretty good. But again, when we talk about 44%, and this is general across all organizations, when you do get into manufacturing, and as mentioned, oil and gas, those tend to be higher on the list of temp outsources. But 44%, again, when you consider that it can be the cleaning services, maintenance services, security services, all those other ancillary services that an organization hires people, in essence, a human asset, it's growing, and that number is going to be growing as we move further into the future. So the different areas we're going to just briefly look at within this PowerPoint, and again, move into the demo as quickly as possible. So when we talk about integrated workforce management for a business, when you look at it from left to right, this really goes to where we were in the past, where we were just basically, as a HR team, taking care of our own individual employees, our actual employees, with HR and talent processes. Then we moved to the concept of understanding that we did have contingent or temporary or outsourced service employees working for us and looking at those. But when you move into the intelligent enterprise, that really means that you have to have a complete view of those individuals, whether it's from finance, procurement, HR, sales, and being able to see that information real time so you know exactly, no matter what kind of individual it is, employee, temp, contingent, outsourced service, exactly what kind of resources you have supporting your organization. So total workforce management within the intelligent enterprise at SAP. So what we really mean by this is taking a look at the entire cycle across all different areas of the organization outside of HR, whether it's finance, product marketing, salesing, procurement. So being able to plan, outsource those individuals, manage those individuals, and then pay and close out those individuals' engagement within the organization. So we take a look at this. It's really a multi-step process. So this is basically going to take a look at the life cycle of an individual. So first comes the workforce planning and the project planning to understand who those individuals are that you need. Then coming into the staffing of those individuals. So when we take a look at this information, we see the source contingent workers. Again, there can be an onboarding process with that. It can be different, obviously, for your contingents, your temporary workers. Typically, you may not have an onboarding process for those other outsourced services, but you can if you choose, and it can be a completely different process. And then once the onboarding is completed and we've got the paperwork, then bringing them on board, having them do the things that you brought them on board to do for your organization. And then on the back end, making sure those individuals get paid and also closing out the process. And again, this gets into offboarding at the very end there and making sure that those individuals that you brought on board, once their service, their project, whatever they were providing the organization has been completed, that they are offboarded in a timely fashion, so that you reduce your risk mitigation as far as having those individuals accessing things that they shouldn't into the future. So when we talk about the Intelligent Suite and Intelligent Enterprise, a couple of different concepts real quick here. The first one is having a common platform of data for all this information. Again, whether it's going to be your HR, finance, procurement. Then the intelligent organization adds business value by taking a look at these different assets and automating that process, no matter what parts of your organization they touch or which different areas of the organization they touch. And then having a total workforce experience. So being able to provide the users with a good, consistent experience, regardless of whether it's an employee, a temp, a contingent. Typically, we'll see the temps and contingents having access to a very limited portion of the system. But then again, you can also have your outsourced services have access if you so choose. So really, we're looking at the digital core, engaging people, and then finally the total workforce experience. So some of the capabilities available today, and that is having the visibility into these individuals and being able to see them within the core HR system and understanding what their status is simply and easily. Also being able to take advantage of your chart, and we'll take a look at this to get another visual representation of those individuals and where they are in the organization. And then the two different areas we're going to be looking at here is the SAP SuccessFactors Core HR System and the SAP Fieldglass Contingent/Temporary Worker Management System. And from the perspective of an end user, I know we mentioned the word integration here, but really the end user has no idea which one of these two systems they're interacting with, and that's the way it should be. So when I go to an org chart and I ask for a requisition and I want a temporary contingent, and the screen pops up, I really should have no idea that that's actually functionality from SAP Fieldglass taking place. So really it's superfluous to the end user as to which system is doing what, which is the way it should be. These systems should just work, and users go in and do their thing. The other aspect we'll also take a look at is insights and intelligence, having transparency across the organization. So being able to see a complete and total headcount of all the individuals who are assets for the organization. Also being able to do things like cost analysis based on my total workforce. So having insight to that is really important in letting an organization understand holistically exactly what's happening out there in the organization. So when we take a look at total workforce management, really the four different value propositions are having an agile workforce, being able to real-time have insights into that information from my complete and total workforce, being able to create unique areas within the system that let me capture information. And also one of the things that SAP SuccessFactors, as well as our Fieldglass and the other systems within SAP, we are truly a global organization. And in this case, 92 countries, 42 languages. So we're really trying to extend the system beyond the U.S. And I've worked with a lot of manufacturers who have facilities, whether it's in China, UK, France, Vietnam, and being able to extend the system to those individuals. So we're really talking about a global approach here. So two different customer success stories. This is Beyond Technologies. It's not a digital core that stands alone anymore. It's really about an integrated suite. It's about being able to communicate and pass data and information to provide competitive advantage across SAP solutions. And that was Alain Dubois, the CMO at Beyond Technologies. And also Corning. It is excellent that SAP SuccessFactors solutions integrate with SAP Fieldglass solutions. Now we have total workforce management and the visibility that includes contingents. Supervisors can view entire teams and who's doing what, all in one place. And again, I know we mentioned the word integrate here, but it should be completely seamless to the end user. when they take a look at the different functionality within the system, not knowing that that may be Fieldglass functionality or SuccessFactors. End users go in and do their thing, and the system supports that. So with that, let's move into the demonstration. Let's see, not bad, just a little over 10 minutes on the PowerPoint. Wanted to limit that. So go ahead and screen share. Okay, have a screen up. Let's open up my browser. So I'll go ahead and move into the system, up into my bookmark. So we're going to sign on as a senior manager. And really, I'm using the senior manager because that enables us to go through quite a lot of functionality. A lot of the reporting that you would see about supply and demand typically would be those individuals interested in that. So what we are now looking at is my landing page. I happen to be Maya Cooper, who is Vice President of the organization. And just a quick note for those of you that have not seen SuccessFactors before, super easy navigation. I can type in the name of any screen, individual, or process up here, and this is going to, in essence, be a quick search for that. Also have the menu to access the system, and also the icons right here. So lots of different ways to move in to the system. I will make one quick commercial here for Enterprise Alumni. This is actually a fantastic solution that's offered as far as being able to manage alumni in the organizations. This is a great CRM tool for those individuals. So if you are doing that future workforce planning, you may want to take into consider marketing to alumni. Great statistics in that an alumni comes onto the organization on average about 80% of the savings versus someone that you would hire, and that an alumni knows the organization, knows the processes, systems, so they come on board a lot faster. So what we'll start with first is I'll come down to my specialties. Let's go into the reporting aspect first. So we'll start with the digital boardroom. So this is where I'm going to be able to display the analysis of where my talent is, what it's looking like in the future. So right here I'm looking at the demand-supply gap. I could also look at headcount trend and hiring details, where my people are located, attrition details, age analysis, to get a better view of my organization as it stands, and then the demand-supply gap of where we want to go. So I can see right now I've got a gap heading into 2020 of 220 engineers that I'm going to be needing. If I scroll a little bit further down, I can get more information as to my supply for critical job role, what the demand's going to be, and I can see what the gaps are between the two. So it's really nice to get these pretty charts and graphs that show us supply versus demand and where we may have challenges in the future. And really the question is, well, how did I get this pretty chart and graph? Where did this information come from? So I'm going to hit Alt-Tab and go back to my desktop tab. So that's really done within this workforce planning. So what we're really looking at now is a high-level overview. Really, this is what the management teams would look at if they're moving into future markets, expanding, taking a look at growing the organization. So this is that strategic planning of moving into the future. So this is the workforce planning tool. So it consists of 5 different steps. First step here is just understanding what the strategy is, what we're anticipating in the future, what are the critical jobs and roles that we're going to need for that. Then we have forecasting, which is really looking at how many people and what job roles will we need, what the supply is going to be of those individuals, what the capabilities are that we need, what are the skills and competencies in order to do this in the future. Then we have to have our risk analysis. So what this basically says is, what are the things that could stop us from reaching that goal? So based on our workforce projections and analysis, we have the employees internally. Are we going to have to get them externally? What are the critical gaps that pose risk to the business strategy? And then we have the impact. So what interventions will most likely help us mitigate that risk? And what are the costs of those impacts and interventions? And the final piece is coming into the system and then taking a look at how we implement our strategies and measures. And this action and accountability is really one of the nice areas within workforce planning, in that it really allows you to take a look at different variations within the planning itself. And I'm just showing you the overview. Within the tool itself, it really gets into a lot of detail, being able to get into a financial analysis and being able to say, well, if we think we're going to need 20% of contingent worker in order to meet this demand in the future, well, what happens if it actually turns out that we need 25 or 30%? So I can see the cost analysis real time right on the spot of what kind of an impact that would be. So in essence, this is the process that we would go through in the workforce planning. I'm going to hit Alt-Tab. That gets me into the pretty charts and graphs that show me where my graphs are and challenges are going to be. And I'll go back to my desktop. And at this point, we're going to take a step a little bit more into tactical. So that was taking a look at that strategic high level. Where are we going? What do we want to do with the organization? So now we're going to take a step and look a little bit more tactical in the day-to-day operations. So within that, one of the things that we'll do that we saw within the PowerPoint presentation is we're going to come in and take a look at the org chart. So from that tactical day-to-day operations, here's Maya Cooper, here's my direct reports, things I can see like indirect reports, also, again, highlighting what the individual is. And you can have different kind of highlights based on if it's a contingent worker. If you do want to bring on the outsourced services, that can be highlighted in a different color. And if I click on just an example of that, Jeff Hill, move into Jeff's organization, slide this down, I can see I do have someone on a global assignment, calling that out versus someone I have who's a contingent worker. So let's minimize the org chart, move over. So within my contingent worker, when I click on Deborah Peterson's tile, I have this little area that pops up. Now, because Maya Cooper is a vice president of the organization, she has this little thing here that says take action. So these are the different things that she can do, and these are the different screens that she can see for Deborah Peterson. Now, if you give your individual contributors access to the org chart, and I think every single organization I've worked with does, they wouldn't see this, obviously. They would not see this whole section down here. They would typically just see this, what we would call business card information. So just a different example, if I clicked on Jeff Hill, Jeff's an employee. Next, I want to click on his employee record. There we go. So when I click Take Action on Jeff Hill, because he is an employee, direct report to Maya, there's a lot of different things that Maya can do for Jeff, a lot of different screens that she can see. And this is all role-based security. So it's really your determination as to what individuals can see and what actions they can take. Let's go back to Deborah. So I've got Deborah here. Let's actually move into Deborah's employment record. This is something that we call the people profile. So what this basically is showing me is all the information we have for Deborah. Now, if this were Jeff Hill, you'd see other tabs here for payroll, for his talent profile, for his benefits. So things that Maya would be provisioned through security to see. But in this case, since we're looking at a contingent, there's basic information for Deborah. So as we scroll a little bit further down, I can see that there's a pending future job change. That is because her contract ends on the 31st of December. Same thing within the job information. And I have access to the work order. So if I pop in a little bit more information to the work order, I can see it ends on December 31st. And right from this point, as Maya Cooper, should I be provisioned to, since I'm a vice president, if I need to extend that work order, I can go ahead and do it. And again, as a role-based security, so Maya, obviously, as a vice president, has the capability of doing this. But in essence, what we're looking at here is the contingent management system. So at no point did Maya have to log in or out of SuccessFactors to move to Fieldglass as the contingent management system. It was just completely embedded, one system, simple, easy to use, and ready to go to access that. So now that we've seen Maya, we looked at the work order and being able to change the work order from Maya. The next step we're going to do is take a look at this from a little bit different perspective. So we came in, we took a look at Maya's details. Here I'm going to take advantage of the menu. We'll go back to the org chart. And in this case, Maya has access to this thing called the position org chart. And again, because of her role in the organization, she has that. Most individual contributors won't have this link when they move to org chart, but Maya does, so again, controlled through role-based security. So when I move to the position org chart, this is going to give me a little bit different view from obviously, a position management perspective. So I can see here's Deborah on the side here. But if I look at this, I've got one opening here, 0 FTEs. And this is for the work Health and Safety Director. That's a pretty important job. And if I click on this, I can get some more information. So I can see it's been quite a while since we've had an individual in this position, and this is a really critical position. So in order for Maya to show that the organization is serious about its health and safety, she's going to come in and look at this information and take a look at the position information. So here, this is my great core HR system providing all this wealth of position information. So we close that, and I'm going to actually come in and say, you know what, since this is really an important position, I'm going to go ahead and create a contingent or temporary worker requisition for this. So let's go full screen on this screen. So at no point did Maya have to exit the system, sign in, sign out. She just clicked on, I want to create a contingent/temporary work requisition for the process. And at this point, she is seamlessly and quickly taken into the contingent labor management system. It's a live demo. I like live demos. Take a chance, grab a drink here. Let me give that a kickstart again. There we go. So I'm into my contingent management system. So it came from the HR system. So the HR system told contingent management exactly what was the requisition. So here's all that wealth of information coming from your core HR system. Right at the top here, I've got a nice little workflow process that shows me where we are in this process of requesting this contingent workforce. So we're in the request phase, but I can see the review, assign, and then onboarding phase. So if I scroll a little bit further down, I can see more information about this requisition. This is basically looking at summary. If I click on the details, this is all that rich information coming from your core HR system and providing it into your contingent management system, so I can see everything about it, where the position is, location, all that information that's necessary in order to fill this requisition out appropriately. And then I can see people that have been immediately matched to this requisition. It's one of the great things about the system. If I happen to have individuals out there, I can immediately see those. And when we look at the contingent management system, there's really two different functions that we wanted to do. The first function is really to give us the best resource we can possibly get at the lowest cost available, so that we can maintain our cost spending. And the other version of that is to maintain that throughout the process, and that contingent contracts can be pretty lucrative. I've seen quite a few that after 30 hours, they're into time and a half, at 40 hours into double time. So being able to have that visibility of knowing that I have an individual approaching time and a half, at that point getting another contingent resource to come on board and take over that's equally qualified to do the job. So in that way we're able to keep our costs down and have visibility into that cost. So really the whole cost savings aspect is a big one. But then the second big aspect is one that we just looked at, and that is now having that visibility into HR as to who these individuals are. As Deborah, we were able to see her on the org chart, move into the org chart and see the information for her. So that's taking a look at the requisition management process through, in essence, the wonderful functionality provided by Fieldglass. Let's go ahead and... So there is one other just quick thing I'll pop up here. Let me minimize this. And that is the capabilities through mobile. So bring over my mobile device. There we go. This happens to be my Samsung Note 8, so I am Maya Cooper. I've logged into the system. So on the mobile device, my landing page here on the mobile device, I can see the different things I have to do, different approvals I need to make. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this link. So here's a different functionality I have access to. I'm going to go to the mobile device org chart. So here's my org chart. I can spin this around to take a look at other individuals, but it's really Deborah I'm interested in. So when I click on Deborah, get more information about her. So this is now, in essence, allowing me to do on the mobile device what I was doing on the browser. So I can move into her employment, move into her work order, and you'll see that the presentation here is pretty much identical to what we saw in the browser. So if I need to come in, want to use my mobile device to make any changes to this, I can go ahead and do that. So if I come in, edit the work order, and this should look really familiar to what we just saw within the browser. So that was the mobile aspect. So with that, let me pop back into my browser. Let's do a quick recap. Okay, we started with a brief commercial on Enterprise Alumni, great application. Moved into the digital boardroom, which gave us, in essence, what I call our pretty charts and graphs to show us where we want to go in the future, what some of the challenges would be with the talent that we need for that. Moving into workforce planning, which is basically the process of providing the information that's going to be used by the pretty charts and graphs within the digital boardroom. Then we went a little bit more tactical from that strategic high-level workforce planning. Took a look at the org chart where we could access Deborah's information, and also the position org chart where we were able to take a look at it from a position organization, realize that we need to create a requisition, and being able to do so seamlessly and easily right from that position org chart into the contingent management solution.